We are live. Wonderful. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Settle on in. Happy Thursday. Believe it or not, folks, I can't type and speak at the same time. It's hard sometimes for me. I usually pre-send these messages pre-write them so that they're ready to go and I don't have to worry. Welcome, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Now, of course, it's Thursday once again. Hope that everyone's not snowed in. If you're on the coast there, I heard you guys got hammered. We did not. It's a beautiful, sunny, gorgeous, what feels like spring day here in Toronto. So hello, Kentucky. We've got a couple of people coming in from Charlotte, North Carolina, hello, Los Angeles. I bet it's beautiful down your way in Sacramento. Settling in, folks. Hello, New York. New York, New York, New York. Hello, Utah. It's great to have all you folks here with us today. All right. Hopefully you guys are coming in pretty quick here. This is great. I'm very excited. Hello from Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome. Hope everyone's keeping safe and well. Hello, Ghana. Welcome, welcome. Guys, I love the chat. It's probably my favorite part leading up to, of course, the beginning of the webinar. I'm really excited for today. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Hello, Toronto. I know, Stace, from the shoveling. We were just talking about that, actually. We were talking about all of the shoveling that a lot of the East Coast people have to do right now to get out of the pounding you guys got. I know that my grandparents got quite a bit. Them, of course, being much older, they're just staying home. So they ain't worrying about it. So they're out on the East Coast as well, East Coast of Canada. So it's typical for them. But for us, I'm like, whoa, it's beautiful here. So let us know, folks, if you're a first timer here, where you're coming from. How's everyone doing? I'm hoping that yeah, I know 26, it's a lot of arm work. I'm hoping that folks are doing okay with COVID right now. I know the cases I feel like they're maintaining. They're not too horrendous right now, but I hope everyone's staying well. And as well, if you're a Hi Mama family member here, welcome. If you're not, please feel free to check us out for a little more information. Kaya just posted our Facebook group in the chat. We are going to be going there after for any conversation pieces. We're going to take the conversation over there after we're done the webinar today. So hello, Christy, your first time from Michigan. Welcome. Please, and as well, we kicked off the Facebook group, folks. I am super excited. The community on there is already roaring. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So I have my tea. If you don't have your water, bring on your water. 2 minutes or so, we'll get settled in and get started here. Very excited to have folks joining us here today. I see Washington. Awesome. I'm hearing some, yes, I do agree, Angela. Join the Facebook group. It's fantastic. Hello, Gina. I see first time. Welcome to Hi Mama Helps. Folks, a couple of folks were asking about Miss Carmen there last week. Carmen's doing great. Both Kai and I have been in conversation with her, and she's enjoying herself in her new position. She says hello to everyone. She misses all of us dearly. Very nice to chat with her. So maybe we'll bring her back, guys. We never know. It's like maybe a guest or something. Could be something fun. Hello, Williamsburg, Detroit, New Jersey. Welcome all. Folks are curious. We had conversation going in the Facebook group. I'm just curious about how folks feel about the vaccine. You know, our center is asking you to get it. If you're a teacher, potentially, or your center is asking you to get it. If you're supposed to get it, like if state's mandating it, I know with here it's small and short rollout right now. It's very slow. It's very, we're still on obviously like the hospitals and those people who really need them. So I'm just curious to how folks are doing with that and just thoughts around it. More people here from New Jersey. Paula, you got your first dose. Second one comes on Monday. Congratulations. I hope, yeah, Tanya, I know, I feel like Kaya just reposted folks as well about the Facebook group. I feel like we're very much, it's a slow process. Folks are ready for it. Still waiting to get yours, Heather, yeah? Hello, Florida? Yeah, I bet. I kind of feel like it's one of those like flu shots. I haven't obviously had mine yet, but I'm anticipating when it do, it's going to be like the flu shot, but maybe double in regards to the arm, So we'll see. I'm probably pretty far down on the list when it all comes down at this point. So, all right, folks, one more minute or two, and then we will get started. So I see folks are on waiting lists for the vaccine. Lots of people are still waiting. I feel like we're going to be. Marion, you're nervous. I understand. Yeah, it's a tough time right now, right? So we're bringing Dani back, folks. I'm really excited. We had Dani on quite a while ago now. We should have had her on sooner, folks. And fantastic conversation that she brought to us. She's got some great stuff to share with us here today. Let's get started. Let's get all rocking and rolling and into the fun of it. If you've never joined us before, please utilize the chat 100%. The folks here, the community here are fantastic, and Kaya will be in on the chat. So if we're talking about any links or anything like that, they're all going to come through. Because we're on Zoom now, which is absolutely amazing. I'm loving it right now. Because we are on Zoom, there's two boxes. There's the chat box and there's the Q&A box. Please utilize that Q&A box for any questions that you have for Dani. We're going to have open Q&A here at the end after she's done presenting some great information for us here. So please pop those questions in there, because it just helps both Kai and I make sure we're getting all those questions through. You guys usually give so many questions. So please don't be shy. Disclaimer as always, folks, sadly, I am not your financial advisor. That's probably not a sad thing, okay? Not your financial advisor. I'm not your legal advisor. I did not go to law school. And at the end of the day, we want you guys to take away great tips, great tricks, things that you can actually implement at your centers around ideas, build up this community that we have, which is absolutely fantastic. So please, if you're looking for any help, whether that be state licensing, or if you're looking obviously like financial legal advice, seek out that person, seek out that financial advisor or consultant of any kind, so that this way you guys are getting the utmost professionalism there. And as well, if you have any community people that you have to involve in any decisions around your center, you're including them 100%. So what you can expect here, a couple of key things, especially around certificates. So the session's recorded. We record the whole thing. It will come out tomorrow as well with your show notes, and they will be sent out. So if you registered with us, even if you weren't able to make it here today, then you will be able to get all of that information sent out over to you. If you're having any technical issues, please seek support through Zoom. A, they have a great support team here that's there to help us, and B, they'll be a lot more helpful than me. I won't lie. At the end of the day, they definitely will be. The next thing as well is on the certificate side. So you will get your certificate today. It will be made available today. If you're looking for it, if you have to bump off and you need to make sure leave for whatever reason, the certificate will be available. It will be available within the recording, and I'm going to make sure all the instructions are there with you within the show notes. So just wanted to make sure that you folks have everything available to you. I know we've had some ups and downs over the last 2 or 3 weeks just with the adoption and getting over it, so I do appreciate everybody's patience there. If you've never been with us, and I've seen a few folks here who have never been with us before, I'm Ria. So I'm community ambassador at Hi Mama, and I'm also an early childhood educator. I've been with Hi Mama for just about 3 years now. We're at the anniversary just about. And I spent just about 6.5, 7 years in the classroom, worked with junior preschoolers for most of my work, worked with all of the children, but and I do have the lovely Kaya on chat. Kaya.
Hey everyone.
She's here. Hi. Do we have any fun facts, Kaya? I feel like we
Yes.
We keep forgetting our fun facts.
No fun facts. I feel like it's Groundhog Day, like every day. So, and it was
Yeah.
Groundhog Day 2 days ago. I'll pop it in the chat if I think it's a
Oh,
fun fact. But I'm here for support. If you need anything, I'll be answering your Q&As. So pop them in the chat there if you have any questions for Dani. We're super excited.
thanks, Kaya. As always, folks, Kaya's here to help us out. She's fantastic. I see a lot more people are rolling in. Uganda, Toledo. Very excited to have everybody here. California, even. So what's on tap for today? So we're talking with Dani. I'm going to bring her on in just a minute, and she's going to go through some fantastic content, a little bit more about, of course, growing your business. Even if you're maybe even thinking about starting a business yourself, this is great. She's going to give us some tips and tricks about growing everything and getting you guys set up for success. I know 2020 was really rough. And Stacey, you've spent more time here with us than your family. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. I love it. I love it. But we're gonna, as well, like I said, open Q&A here at the end for Dani. So I'm really actually excited to bring Dani on. Dani, if you want to join us here, you've been with us before. You've so much in your background though, like you're a multi-center location owner. You've got so much passion behind, like your entrepreneurial passion is so amazing. Maybe enlighten us a little bit more about yourself, and then I'm going to let you dive into everything you got prepared for us today.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm excited to be here. And for those of you that might not know, my first experience, like kind of working with Hi Mama, is a blog post that you guys allowed me to write. Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh man, it was over the summer.
No, it was December of 2019. It was
it really?
Yeah, it was December 2019. I remember. I was so nervous writing that blog, but it's fitting with what I'm going to be talking about today, because it was I think the title was How I Started My Childcare Business at 20 years old. And yeah, that's basically what I do right now. Is I am, like Ria said, I am a multi-site childcare business owner. I started out in the industry really young, and I'll get into that a little more later in my presentation. But my passion right now is helping in addition to running my programs, helping other providers, specifically people that want to start childcare businesses or just in their startup process, get through their first few months of entrepreneurship and get through that licensing process. So that's really what brings me joy right now.
I'm super excited. Dani, I'm gonna let you take it over from here as well. Kaya just posted your link to your blog post in the chat. So if you guys are looking to read it, yeah. And I'm gonna have to look back now, Dani. It's just, I'm having like brain fog. Awesome. All right, Dani, I'm gonna let you take it away here. You should be good to go. Maybe just give me a thumbs up and I'll get out of here.
Let me just try 1 second.
Dani's got some great stuff for us here today, so. Very exciting. And folks are rolling in. Here we go. All right, Dani, take her away.
Okay, perfect. All right. So I do want to share a little bit more about myself, like I mentioned before I get into everything. And again, thank you so much to Hi Mama for having me back. I am a multi-site childcare business owner. My centers are located in New York. Fun fact, live in Philadelphia right now. I moved here in June of 2019. So I've been here for about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half now. And I not commute, I don't do it every day, but I go back and forth to my programs about once every 2 weeks or so, or maybe once a week if it's a really busy time of year. It's about 2 hours distance away from where I live. And yeah, I work on the operations of my business remotely at this point. In addition to owning my preschools, I create digital content on YouTube specifically for people like yourselves, childcare providers, center owners, and family daycare operators. I share insight into my experiences as a childcare business owner on my YouTube channel. And I actually a couple months ago, recently celebrated the 10,000 subscriber milestone, which was really exciting for me. So if you ever are interested in exactly what it entails to run a childcare business, my YouTube channel is a great place to look into for that. And lastly, I began consulting full-time a couple years ago and founded Dani Christine Inc., which is my consulting agency. So now I balance overseeing my center operations remotely with running my consulting business and providing resources for other childcare professionals on childcaresites.com. So I just wanted to get into, just to give you guys even more history about myself and how I started out. My first childcare business was a group family daycare in my home. But prior to that, I started out in this industry while I was in high school. I was a senior in high school when I started working at a local childcare center in my hometown, and then began working there full time for my first few years of college. And right before my final year during my undergraduate experience, I opened my very first childcare business. It started out of a general curiosity of what it would be like to own my own business, and also a strong desire that I had at that time to live on my own. I was sharing an apartment prior to this with a couple of my friends, and our lease was coming to an end right before our senior year, and we were kind of going our separate ways. And a different friend of mine that I was working with said that she was interested in opening a home daycare. And I personally had never heard of that. I had never noticed home daycares, didn't know what it was. So I spent a few months looking into it, and then found a perfect opportunity in this little house not too far from my family and friends, and not too far from my college that I was going to at the time. And my home daycare was called Big Steps Prep. So I figured I'd share a few photos with you of what that looked like. I started this program in 2014, the summer of 2014. And had a capacity of 16 children. That's the maximum amount that you can have in a home daycare setting in the state of New York, in a one-family house. And that's what I had for my first few years in the business. This is actually a photo of me standing in front of my first center-based location. After a few years of operating my home daycare, a family friend approached me with the opportunity to partner with him to open a center-based location in Long Island, which was a bit of a distance away from my home daycare in a different part of New York. So essentially, I would be starting from scratch in a much bigger setting, in an area that I was unfamiliar with and had never been to before. So as you can imagine, the first few months was a bit of a struggle for me, as expected, but within about 2 years, we were able to grow our enrollment to over 100 children registered in the program, and we began seeking out expansion opportunities at that point. And this past summer, I opened my second center-based location, which was a very exciting time for us, as well as very stressful, being that it was in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic. We were licensed in September of 2020, and I was able to get it licensed within the first 38 days. After signing the lease, 38 days later, I was able to get my hands on the license for the center, which is pretty speedy for me in comparison to other licensing processes that I've experienced over the years, both between my home daycare setting and the first center-based location. And one thing that I realized while marketing my second location this past summer is that we put a lot of time, effort, and energy into creating a high quality experience for our families over the years. We go above and beyond to make sure that we make anything that we can as convenient as possible for our families, on top of ensuring their children are healthy and safe and provided with a great educational experience. So with that, we've gotten great reviews over the years and praises from families. So we wanted to begin promoting that, to prospective families seeking childcare. And in our marketing efforts this past summer for the second location, we made sure that we placed 5 stars on everything. We put it on our website, we put it on our building. As you can see, this is a picture of me in front of the front entrance of our building, and we have vinyl coverings on our windows. So those are actually windows, and which many people don't realize is a great marketing space for you. You don't have to just have a sign. We have these window coverings that provides privacy from the outside looking in, but if you were inside, you would not be able to tell anything was covering it. Light still goes in as normal, and we're able to use that space on the windows and the doors as more wording for what we offer as a program, our hours, the ages we care for, the services that we provide. And on one of the windows on a different side of the building, we have 5 stars, and that we're highly rated. So we put it on our building, our flyers, we make it clear that this is a 5-star preschool. One thing, being that I realized that we go above and beyond, like I said, we wanted to make sure we demonstrated excellence and had proof behind it and advertised that. I also pass that message on to my clients that come to me with their own childcare businesses, trying to figure out how they can better market themselves. And a question that I've received in the past is, what does it mean to be a 5-star childcare business? And I would say that 5 stars can have many different meanings, but if you truly believe and have proof behind it, you can absolutely highlight how you demonstrate excellence in your program in various ways. So your 5 stars, many, I think, if not all states and places around the world have a local quality rating and improvement system, which the acronym is QRIS. For us in New York, it's called Quality Stars of New York. And I believe you can be rated on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, depending on the documentation and proof that you provide to them during your application experience and what they observe. Many places around the world also have their own version of this, and it might be called something different. But in general, the type of organization that you're looking for is called a Quality Rating and Improvement System, QRIS. And you can advertise the fact that you are highly rated, or 5 stars, or some places the maximum is 4 stars, or if it's 10 stars, whatever it is, highlight the amount of stars that you have if that is where you're strong. For us, we started in 2017 at my first center. In our quality rating and improvement system, star ratings only happen once every 3 years, or it's once, and then they do it again. They come back again the third year. So we started out with our QRIS in the very beginning and rated very low because we had no proof to demonstrate anything. We just opened. So at the time that we were up for re-rating, the pandemic hit. So we're not strong right now in our QRIS because we haven't been able to provide proof of anything just yet. But that's one example. If you do have a high rating, that's one way to say you're a 5-star program. Another is reviews on search engines. We do have 5 stars on our Google reviews profile. If you have a program that's on Yelp, that's another way. I think care.com might have a review system wherever people can leave reviews about your program. If you notice that you are highly rated, or if you create a rating system on your own website and have families that are giving you high ratings, that's a great way to advertise that as well. Social media reviews. Facebook has a place where families can leave reviews. We have 5 stars on there as well. That's something else that you might consider looking into when advertising. And also just in general, the quality of services provided. If you are demonstrating excellence and have a great program and you know it, and you're getting testimonials in person from your families that are saying that they appreciate everything that you're doing, that their kids are actually learning, they're writing you and saying great things about your program, you're a 5-star program. And I recently, last month, released my first self-paced course for anybody that's interested. It is available on childcaresites.com. If you'd like to learn the steps to open a 5-star childcare business, you can find out how on childcaresites.com. And with all of that, the pandemic really took a toll on us as a business in many different ways. I will say that we were not in the worst case scenario. And I think that's only because from the beginning, we tried to position ourselves well. We pivoted, reimagined, during these unprecedented times, all these different words that we got used to during this pandemic, we took it on and did what we had to do to make sure that we were able to continue providing services. And the first webinar that I was on with Hi Mama back in, I want to say it was April or May. I don't remember exactly. But that first webinar, I spoke about some of the different procedures, the health and safety procedures that we implemented that made people feel comfortable, made our parents and our staff and most of our staff feel comfortable about the way that we were operating. Prior to COVID-19, we were doing on-site tours, in-person interviews, traditional on-site instruction, live events, visiting local schools and businesses to, speak to them about collaborations and advertise and all of that. We did a lot differently than we do now. And what's shown here on this slide are just a handful of things that have changed. I brought up the previous webinar that I was in because there is where I talked about our health and safety procedures with our children. So I don't want to take up too much time focusing on that today, but these are a few things that, in addition to that have changed. Now, during this pandemic, what we do instead of on-site tours are video tours. We put together a somewhat professional looking video tour of our program that I took with just a regular camera that we took clips of with our iPhones and put together an iMovie, which is free. We were able to put together a free professional-ish looking video and put it on our website for families to see, since our state is requiring that nobody enters the building while children are there that are non-essential personnel. So we have that up there in case anybody wants to see inside of our program prior to enrolling their children. And we also sometimes do Zoom interviews through Zoom, instead of in-person interviews, as well as Zoom tours for families. We also, instead of only doing traditional on-site instruction with the kids, this past summer and in the spring, we're doing virtual preschool program for our 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds that were staying home because their parents were not comfortable with them coming to school in person. We had one teacher designated for putting together materials, lesson plans, activities, and hosting a virtual preschool program for those children. And now, in addition to that, another pivot for September, when we realized that public schools were not reopening in our area, or the public schools in our area at our first location did not open until mid-October. So all of the students in that community that went to public school needed a different place to be while their parents were at work. And we opened up what we called our Zoom room, and provided remote learning support for school-age children who were in grades K to 6 that could not, for one reason or another, or their parents did not want them to go to public school in person. They came to us, and we struggled trying to figure out how to get a whole bunch of school-age kids online at the same time with just a handful of teachers. But we figured it out, and we're in a much better place a few months down the line. But I think we were able to be successful and be at the point that we are today because we, one, did not have to close. We, unfortunately, New York considered childcare businesses to be essential services and did not force us to close unless you were in New York City. My programs are in New York State in Long Island, outside of the city. City schools had to close for a certain period of time, but we stayed open and we pivoted and adapted and changed what needed to be changed as needed. Also, instead of live events, we have virtual meetings and virtual concerts and virtual events, which is nothing new by this point. I'm sure all of us here on this webinar have attended virtual events by this point, but that was different for us. We over the years have been really big on doing holiday parties and big grand graduation ceremonies on a stage in an actual auditorium with all of our kids. And we had our first experience of a virtual event like that over the holiday season. We had our holiday concert on Zoom with our director walking around to each classroom while the kids performed and danced and did all of those things on Zoom for their families to watch. So that was interesting. And also another thing that we have done differently, since we can't do regular business-to-business marketing as we would by going into schools and local businesses and meeting with them, is that we have mailed out packages to families directly. Any family that calls us to inquire about our services, we take down their information, their mailing address, phone number, contact information, and put it into our CRM system so that we can follow up with them however we need, whether that's by email, phone, or actually mailing something to their house. And we have purchased materials with our logo on it. What are those called? Tumblers, baby bibs, fidget spinners. I had one on my desk I was getting ready to show you, but we've had fidget spinners with our logo on it, just different things that we felt that the families or children would actually use that have our logo on it. We've never done that before, but figured we would try it now as a different strategy. Aside from that, I would say that the number one tip that I have to help those of you who are thinking about starting a childcare business right now or trying to improve the quality of your services is to keep open communication with all parties involved before, and that's at any stage that you're at. If you're thinking about starting, if you're currently starting, if you already have one and you're trying to expand, or if you're just trying to stay afloat right now, or could use some extra tips, being open with communication is something that I have learned is really crucial in 2020 alone, just because of this COVID experience. Has taught me that so much more. Before beginning the application process for my second location, I reached out to my licensor to find out what has changed and what I could expect through the licensing process, I told her about my hypothetical at that time, hypothetical scenario of opening a second center right now. And I wanted to find out exactly what that would entail. And she was able to give me great information that I was able to make decisions around. So at that time, it was several months before we actually signed the lease for our second location. And she had told me that they were not currently doing any inspections on site. And this was in the beginning of the summer, and she was saying that they were not expected to go back to the office until around October, which for me translated to, if I submit my application now, it might not even begin getting work done until October. So there were certain things that I needed to know in order to make sure we didn't lose out on money, or that we were negotiating our lease agreement or something correctly with whatever landlord we would eventually have. Now, I was fortunate enough to be able to do a virtual initial inspection tour with my licensor at the time in order to get my program open and licensed within 38 days. But none of that wouldn't have happened without consistent open communication and involving my licensing agency in our plans and in our efforts. Aside from licensing or opening a program in general, if you already have a program, making sure that you communicate with your staff is also crucial. If you're thinking about changing up policies in order to help with risk reduction strategies, like reducing the risk of preventing this, of spreading COVID-19, if you're thinking about implementing a different policy or procedure to help with that, maybe bring it up to them first to see how they feel, or just to if it's not a question, if you're telling them it's going to happen, or if it's mandatory because of a state rule, maybe giving them as much of an advance notice as possible would be helpful. Same thing with families. Prior to the Thanksgiving break, we were getting ready to go on Thanksgiving break back in November, and I realized that we might have a lot of children and staff that were thinking about traveling for Thanksgiving. And we wanted to make it super clear as soon as possible what our state's rules and regulations were surrounding travel, quarantining after travel, and what would have to happen if you did make that decision during Thanksgiving, because we didn't want any surprises or any upset families or upset employees once Thanksgiving was over and we asked them, did you travel? And they said yes, and now we have to tell them they can't come back for another 2 weeks. Also, we implemented, it is not required currently for children in New York to wear masks while on site in the centers. You can make it optional, or it could be your centers or your program's policy that they do, but the state does not require that happens. But we wanted to make it our policy as a private business that after the Thanksgiving break, the children would also wear masks in addition to the staff. And the reason for that is because we wanted to do all that we could to reduce the risk of spreading COVID-19 in the event that anybody might not have been honest about where they were or who came to visit them for Thanksgiving. We just knew there might be a spike around that time. So about 2 weeks before the Thanksgiving break, we let our families know that we're going to implement this rule where all children need to be at least coming in with masks. Children 2 years old and above that are free from any sort of respiratory issues or or breathing issues or disabilities that would prevent them from removing their mask. All of the CDC recommendations were in effect. We weren't doing it for infants or young toddlers, but as many children as we could have wear masks. We wanted them to at least come in with it, and if it became irritated, we would take it off. Just overly communicating has been effective for us, both with parents, staff, and licensing. Now, I'm also getting the question, is this a good time to start a childcare business? And if you were to ask me, I would say that it is a great time to start a childcare business. There is more spare time available to focus on your personal and career goals now more than ever for many of us. If you're not currently working due to the pandemic, but have been thinking about starting a business of your own, this might be a great time for you to dedicate that time, maybe take on a part-time job instead of going back into a full-time job, to focus on your own career goals. Or if you have a different sort of business and had relief financially from the government or wherever, or different grants, there's a lot of opportunities and time now that we're, for the most part, kind of sort of stuck in the house more than we have ever been in the past. You might find in certain areas, I'm no real estate expert, there might be cheaper real estate or flexibility with landlords that are, struggling to get tenants into their facilities or their homes. If you're thinking about renting out a home to start a childcare business, you might find cheaper options available. I do see the Q&A box and chat going off. I want to just say that I'm not looking at it right now, but we are going to have a Q&A session at the end, like I believe Ria mentioned. So if you have questions, please put it in the Q&A box. There's also different grants, loans, and government funding available in many areas of the world. I'm specifically in the US, in New York, and I know that aside from the COVID-19 disaster relief funds from the SBA for the EIDL and the PPP, there's also state grants and state loans available for New York State. And I know that there are some in other states of the US as well that have not been available in the past. There's also new opportunities to be creative with the services that you offer, aside from just traditional 7 to 6 childcare service. And there might be a reduced competition resulting from other businesses closing. There were many childcare businesses that unfortunately thought that they were going to close for 2 weeks back in March, and unfortunately were not able to reopen at all. So there might be reduced competition and more availability to maybe acquire that space. That's something that we did. Our second location actually used to be a different daycare center that closed down in March, and the owner just really was not interested in reopening. So we were able to come in and take it over and lease the space from the owner, since he also owned the building. So I would say yes, that it is a great time to start a childcare business. In my opinion, I would absolutely encourage you to consult with your own team, your own accountant or CPA, your own attorney, or advisors. The first thing that you would want to think about before starting your business is exactly why you want to do it. Whatever it might be, if it's a home daycare or a center-based location or a different other creative sort of program, figuring out why you want to do it first is step one, and then sharing that in your marketing, I would say, is step two as you go through the licensing and startup process. It's important to people to learn who it is that is going to be taking care of their child. You also want to understand the different modalities of care. And by that, I mean, whether you're going to open a home daycare in a house, if you're going to do it in an apartment building, which is possible. At least I know in New York, you could have an apartment and in a complex and open a program inside of your unit, which usually has a much smaller capacity of children. Or if you're going to do a center-based location in a commercial property. So looking into the differences between the different modalities, and there's probably more types out there depending on where you are. Understanding what the differences are and what options are available to you is important, and you can find that typically in your local regulations to see what the requirements are, what the licensing process will look like for each, and make your decisions based on that. You could also get creative with your services, as I mentioned. Outside of an in-person childcare services, I've seen so many different creative virtual services. For an example, you could offer virtual preschool services like we did. In the start of this pandemic, in April, we began our private virtual preschool program for kids ages 3 to 5 years old. It was free in the springtime, and then we realized we were doing too much in the summer and had to put a fee on it. And we were able to open that service to people that were not even enrolled in our program before. We had children that never stepped foot into our building that were registered and attending our virtual preschool program, which was super interesting. And if I'm not mistaken, we had 1 or 2 that actually started with us in the summer or in the fall after the virtual preschool experience. They came on to actually come in person once their families needed it and were comfortable with sending them. Outside of doing live virtual preschool classrooms like that, you could do pre-recorded content. I do videos on YouTube. That is something that I get paid for directly from Google. Google pays me a certain amount of money in order to create content based on the ads that were shown. I honestly don't know the whole YouTube technology or how it works, but you could start a YouTube channel for your business, grow an audience, and post different videos on YouTube in order to get paid from YouTube, in addition to maybe creating like exclusive content for people that sign up, but it's pre-recorded, so it's on your own schedule. There's so many different options out there. Yeah, or if you wanted to think about outside of the virtual pre-recorded or anything like that, if you wanted to do an in-person business, maybe I saw a lot of these pods popping up back in the summertime, preparing for the fall, and in the new, for families that did not want to send their kids to public school or a large private school setting, they were enrolling their children in pods in order to do remote learning. If your area allows for something like that, maybe you could create a pod and take on a handful of school-age children, or open a commercial-based property and only do school-age services. There's so many different outside of the box things that you can think about doing. Funding opportunities. If you currently own a business, there are many different grant opportunities available or government financial relief programs that were released within the past year that you might be missing out on if you're not following the news or a part of certain communities in your area that are talking about these programs. I know that for the US, outside of the Paycheck Protection Program loan and the economic injury disaster loan that are really popular right now that are available. I know the SBA made some amendments to rules for their regular loan programs. I'm not too familiar with how that works because I've never gotten something like that before. But there's also some funding in certain areas directly for childcare providers. I know that in New York, they released what is called the Essential Worker Scholarship, Childcare Scholarship, where families that can prove that there's at least one essential worker that is a caregiver for that child at home, and the household income falls below a certain 300% of the federal poverty level, can qualify for free childcare. So we have about, I want to say between 20 and 30 families right now between both of our centers that are getting our services for free because our local child care resource and referral agency is sending us the money, the tuition for those children. So we don't have to worry about collecting the money from the families, and they don't have to worry about paying it. And we get paid from the state to take care of those children. Which is different than the regular department. For us, it's called DSS, the Department of Social Services. The Child Care Subsidy Program is different because those are different requirements. But similar to what Ria said in the beginning of this webinar, I'm not a financial advisor either. So please reach out to your local CPA, your local accountant, financial consultant, or someone who is an expert in order to connect you with the best options and opportunities available for you near you. And then my last point, I believe, is considering competition. You might be located in what is known as a childcare desert. There is a specific website that outlines what areas of the United States specifically, I'm sorry, for Canada viewers or anywhere else outside of the US, you can look into how many, a simple way to figure out if you're in a childcare desert is looking up like the demographics for the neighborhoods or surrounding areas that you're thinking about starting a business in or where you are, and seeing how many licensed childcare slots are available in total, which you should be able to find on your state's website that shows like your childcare search page. You should be able to type in like a zip code or a county or something, and you might be able to see the license capacity for each program. See how many slots there are in total in whatever area you're looking up, and then compare that to the demographics that you know about, like how many, I guess, looking at the census, how many children under the age of 5 were reported in the last year in that area or so, and kind of doing the math to figure out, is there a need, right? And as I mentioned before, many programs did close down permanently, and this might be a great time to discover that you're in an area or thinking about opening a program in an area that is quote unquote deserted. Because certain businesses have closed down permanently, like I mentioned. There might also be owners that are struggling right now and seeking to exit the business, or maybe they're not struggling and they're just over it. There are many childcare business owners that are of older age that might be seeking to retire, and if offered the opportunity to do so, because someone like you that's looking reached out to them, they might do that. Again, my current my second location that we just opened was not advertised as for sale or for rent. It was listed. Actually, it was not even listed as temporarily closed. I just did my research to try to find out which ones were open. I called around to different programs in the area that I was interested in to find out, to see if they answer the phone. I called a couple times, looked into their social media to see if they posted anything about being closed. And once I saw that this location I sent mail to the actual location address to the owner of the business and offered what I wanted to offer. And within a couple of days, he called me back and we got that opportunity. So even if you don't see any advertisements for opportunities, you never know what exists. The worst case scenario is that they say no, they're not interested, or no, or it's not for sale, or no, it's not for lease. But you don't know until you ask, right? And even if those three things, if you're not in a deserted area, if there's no businesses that close down, if there's no owners that are seeking to exit the business, your services that you provide might be unique. They might be something that is absolutely needed, or something that many families would be interested in if you opened, even though you would be competing with other programs. I just don't want competition to discourage anybody. If you want, I'm going to mess up the quote. I'm not even going to try to quote it, but I've seen different memes and stuff on social media talking about, like, when you walk down the grocery aisle and you see how many different brands of toilet paper there are, right? There's so many different brands of toilet paper, but they all have been in business for decades. Like, people need different things, or want different things, or value different things, and yours might be something that they're interested in. So again, I just wanted to point out that I do have a course available. If you're interested in learning more about some of the things that I discussed, you can find it on childcaresites.com/courses. And on my website, you can find additional low-cost courses if you're interested in starting up a program. And there's also opportunities to book a private one-on-one video consultation with me to discuss your business needs, and so much more. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. You can look it up after this webinar if you're interested. But with that, I'm finished. And Ria, if you want, we could do questions now.
Yeah, we've had tons of fantastic content, by the way. Like I've been sitting here like taking some notes, because we like to obviously give back on the show notes, and some phenomenal tips. And it's been absolutely amazing. We have tons of questions. I don't know if we're going to get to all of them. But if not, don't worry. We'll definitely get to them. We're going to go into the Facebook group as well. Let's give a start. A couple of people have asked, do you only do consulting in the US?
Yes. I'm not one to pretend that I know something that I don't. I'm not really comfortable doing consulting for anywhere outside the US, because I don't have access to that information. So yeah, just for the US.
No, that's totally fair though. And a couple of people had asked just about like communication with your families, like right now. What types of ways have you been using, whether that be an app like Hi Mama, for example, or like other ways have you been using things, I should say, to communicate with the families during the pandemic right now?
Yeah, apps like Hi Mama are good for childcare, which is a childcare management software. You can communicate through text message or daily reports and stuff like that. So Hi Mama is great for that. But outside of that, like specifically with new leads, like people that are interested in enrolling their children, one thing we've done differently in the past year is we actually got a virtual phone system, which is similar to like Google Voice, or we use a brand called Grasshopper. If you Google Grasshopper, you should be able to find the company that I'm talking about. And it's basically like an internet phone system. I'm able to make phone calls, like using my computer. It's an app, without having to use my phone number, my actual phone number. And we can also send text messages and faxes through that app. And it's been really helpful in quick communication with new families. A lot of families nowadays answer better to text messaging. So that's been one method that we've done differently.
Awesome. So a couple of other questions here, and then we're going to head into wrap up. Maybe what's been your largest challenge with getting quality rated? I know a couple of people have asked questions around their quality rating. Of course, it's different per state. I'm very aware of that. But what's been maybe your number one challenge?
Honestly, the time for us in New York, it's a lot. There's a lot of documents documents that you have to put together and upload to the website the portal that they have available, just making sure that you have the time to sit down. Because what I started to realize is we do the things that they're asking for proof of, we do them, but just finding the proof takes time. They might ask for sign-in sheets. They might ask for flyers. They might ask for photos, or registration forms. Sitting down and collecting all of those items could literally take days for us because the requirements are so long and lengthy. So you have to make sure that you put the right people in place to give you the free time to make sure you can collect all the information you need. So that's been tough for us.
That's
as we
fair.
now go through our renewal period.
I can't imagine. I've personally never done a quality rating, like licensing piece to it. And so I wouldn't be able to give any knowledge on that side, but I can't imagine it's a short process whatsoever. So
No, not at all.
Dani, it's been absolutely phenomenal having you on, hearing you talk about your personal journey as well, starting your own business from scratch. Is there any words of advice, pieces of wisdom, happy thoughts you want to leave us with today?
Yeah, I guess my biggest thing is don't feel like certain opportunities are not available for you. There's so many different opportunities that you might be missing because you just don't think it's possible. Very quickly, I'll say that prior to opening my first center-based location, actually before opening my home daycare, I had an opportunity to partner with the same partner that helped me with my first center 2 years prior to opening my home-based program. And I just couldn't, I was very young at that time. I was 18 or 19, and I just wasn't even, I was like, I have no money, I can't do this. But little did I know, which I found out a few years later, he was willing to put up 95% of the cost of the expenses, which obviously I was able to do it in terms of that. So just keeping your options open and being flexible and understanding you have access to opportunities as well, no matter how big or small your dreams are.
Dani, thank you so much again for joining us today. We've been posting, if you want to connect up with Dani, we've been posting her link to her site. Kaya's been dropping everything in here. You're getting a lot of love in the chat. And as well, we're going to head over to Facebook in a minute. So please join us there for any Q&A left over. Dani's going to join us, folks. So please, once again, Dani, thank you so much for being here, sharing all of this fantastic information with us.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad to be here. Thank you, guys.
Been amazing. All right, folks, in the chat, Kaya is going to repost. I know she already has posted, but she's going to repost the link to the certificate. So if you haven't had a chance to get it, please grab it. It will be there here until the end of the webinar. Of course, you will be able to get it tomorrow. If you are not able to get it today, tomorrow with the show notes, you would just have to pop into the recording and you'll actually be able to access the link. All the instructions will be there. Just follow those guys and you'll be able to get it and save it for your records, your files, wherever you're sending it out to. Next week, folks, we're talking a little bit more about social skills, play, and learning. I'm very excited. We're having Jan and Janet on from a local company here within the Toronto area, GTA area. Fantastic set. They're both professors. I'm very excited having them both on to just talk a little bit more about, especially right now with social skills and our concerns around it with the pandemic. So please don't be shy. Next Thursday, if you've been with us before, the registration will go out on Monday. Of course, please check us out and keep your eyes on the Facebook page here. Miss Kaya, speaking about Facebook, I was going to say join us in a minute, but join us now.
Right now, why wait? There's some really amazing conversation pieces going on over there. So I'm just going to put the link to our circle time in the chat right now. Just please make sure you do accept the rules. We want to keep this a nice, safe place community, and let us know where you're coming from, what your role is. We want to see where our community is coming from. So unfortunately, there was so much amazing content today. Dani, thank you so much. If we didn't get a chance to answer your question, please head over to the Facebook group. I know our community would be thrilled to answer answer your question. And Dani would be there too. She's going to pop on after this, and we will continue our conversation there as well. And also connect with us. We are actually having Dani on our podcast, the preschool podcast, in 2 weeks. So her episode is going to be going live on February 23rd. So make sure you download her episode. You can do it on Spotify, on Stitcher, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you typically get your podcasts from. So February 23rd, her episode is going to go live there. Super excited for that. And if you haven't already, make sure you're giving us a follow on Facebook and Instagram. We have an amazing community there. And I really hope to see everyone in our Facebook group again.
Thank you again, Dani, for joining us. I've got a couple of questions. I'm going to pop them into the Facebook group that have been from fantastic folks here on the webinar. But from Kaya, myself, everyone at Hi Mama, as always, please stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe during these crazy times. And we'll see you next week, hopefully. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Dani.